Welcome, everyone, to the premiere episode of Spin the Wheel presented by Social Chorus. My name is Chuck Go, Senior Strategic Advisor at Social Chorus, and this is the first time I've gone live with a show series, and I would want to do it with no one other than my co-host on this series, Rachel Miller. Rachel, what do you think of Spin the Wheel?
I'm so ready to spin the wheel. Hi, Chuck. Thank you so much for inviting me to co-host with you. There's no one else I'd rather do this with either. So welcome, everybody, to our very first episode. We're looking forward to it. It should be great. We'd love to know who's here. So do jump into the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from. My name is Rachel Miller. I'm the Director of All Things IC, coming to you from my guest bedroom in London, UK.
Good. Save that. I'm coming to you from Indianapolis, Indiana, my home office. And yes, we've known each other, Rachel, for close to a decade. I was thinking before, we've never really had a chance to work together on anything, but I was wrong.
Oh.
Last year at PRSA Connect, we did share the stage for a little breaking the ice segment with an interview. So not really working together, but maybe chatting with each other.
There was gin and tonic involved there, Chuck. Was that working?
There was. That's one of my proudest internal comms career moments, Rachel, is introducing you to gin and tonics, and not just introducing you, but now you do enjoy them. So I take full credit for that.
Right.
But we are here to spin the wheel. So what does that mean? Well, we have a fancy wheel. You can't have a spin the wheel show without a wheel. So how this is going to work is starting now in the chat, I want you to share with us topics that you want to talk about, topics that are of top of mind for you, topics that you're struggling with, topics you want to hear our opinions on, themes that are challenging to your business. We want Spin the Wheel to be fun. We also want to do this to support the communicators Rachel and I care about so much. So start putting those topics in there, and then later on in the show, we'll come back and review those, fill out the wheel, and then tell you then what happens next.
I've just Rachel, we've just got some people joining us. So hi to Kyla, Jason, Erica, and Midge from North London. And we have people from Dublin, California, Essex, which is my original hometown. Hi, Essex.
Oh, there you go.
Chicago and Richmond. Amazing. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, it was very exciting when you go live, you never know who's going to show up. We did try to do RSVP exercise for people who wanted to add this to the calendar. So if you tripped across this and want to get added to the calendar, I'll make sure I add a link in later so you can RSVP. We had more than 160 people RSVP to be a part of the show and help participate, because again, participation around this is so important for the success. But we had obviously the US and the UK, North America, Europe covered. We also had I saw some people from South Africa. I saw some people from Australia that signed up. So we know not everybody can watch this live, but hopefully those of you that are in here are seeing it happen right now. So yeah, great call out. Great to see all those names in there.
Definitely. It was tricky to find the right time, wasn't it? And to be honest, we did it around my children's bedtime. So thanks to my kids, they're now in bed, so we can now talk. So we figured 8 p.m. my time and 3 p.m. your time, right? So
3 p.m. my time, 12 p.m. for the people on Pacific. And I think that's one of those challenges that organizations face in a time like this is, what is the right time to communicate? How do you get the right people together? And even just you and I trying to schedule this, because thinking about the time we are in during the pandemic, we were going to do this on Thursdays in the evening. Yeah. But then in the UK, that's a pretty special evening.
It is 8 o'clock on Thursdays is when we do clapping. And lots of people are breaking saucepans because we are really going for it now here. We're really clapping and banging saucepan lids together and to show support for our carers, key workers and NHS. So 8 p.m. Thursday was the original plan, but it's already taken. It's a very important time here.
That's definitely the right thing to make. Everybody's making sacrifices in a lot of different ways. And when this pandemic happened, fortunately, it impacted some less than others. But I think sometimes we minimize that impact that it's happened. So I look at my own situation where I've worked remote for a number of years.
You're pro in this though, Chuck. This is what you do, right? That you work from home all the time. This is
right. And so I'm fortunate. I've got a couple monitors. I've got a great big desk. Everything's working well. But even then, something just didn't quite feel right. And you start to realize like you're not working from home. You're trying to work and be productive during a pandemic. Whether you're a communicator, an accountant, a health and safety leader, whoever it is, that is a constant struggle that you have when trying to work during this pandemic.
Yeah, totally. It's a completely different mindset, isn't it? It's completely, and it's quite nice actually to see. I've got to see the inside of clients' homes, and I've seen their kids, and they've met my kids, and it's very different. It's quite intimate, and that's quite unusual. Everyone's looking different, and you're in your home environment. It's a very different way of communicating, but. Welcome to our space. Welcome to Spin the Wheel, and welcome to our homes. I'm going to have a look at the chat and see how we're doing. If we've got any topics that have come in,
Okay.
Yeah, so if that's all right with you. So excuse me looking.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was thinking through as you were saying how things have changed for people. I even look at the customers that I work with. So you get to see into people's homes. And I've noticed some new vulnerability with how people are sharing. So before, when I would be on calls with clients, sometimes I didn't even have my video on, and certainly they didn't have their video on. But now it was really cool to see everybody have their video on. And I know some people might be annoyed by the funky Zoom backgrounds and things like that that people are doing.
There's some good ones, though, Chuck.
There are some amazing ones.
Lego did some yesterday. So the BBC a couple of days ago did sets of some really famous TV shows. So you could be on the news and you could be on some sitcoms, from really traditional sitcoms. And then Lego did some yesterday. So you could have Lego space backgrounds and some really cool backgrounds around. So we were talking just before we came on about how we're seeing companies communicate. And we were comparing notes, weren't we, between the US and the UK, particularly in terms of how everybody is trying to communicate in the pandemic. And
yeah, when we started talking about this, obviously the UK and the US are not the same countries, all facing the pandemic, but under different circumstances. And we did want to be clear with those that are watching this live. This is not a political conversation. I wish I could have all kinds of flashing lights and banners and red ticker ribbons running saying this is not a political conversation. We're not going to get political around this. But I started to wonder about the structure of how countries are set up when they're governments, and how similar those were to how a lot of companies are set up to communicate. So I look at it from the United States standpoint, because we think everything revolves around us anyway, so we'll start off there.
You can say that. I would never say that. You can say that.
We have the federal government who is communicating out there politically. You can say if you like it or not, communicating out there. But then you've got the governors who have their own messages, facing their own challenges and circumstances, then with employees who are essentially the residents. So we see a model a lot of times you see in a lot of companies where you've got the C-suite up there with their important messaging and they think their stuff is vital and they control. But you've got the governors, which very much feel like line managers out there who are balancing pressure from above around what to expect, but also pressure from the people that report to them what to expect. And then you've got the employees or residents who are frustrated, who are challenged, and who are scared during a time of change. So that's how I see it almost playing out. And you see that in companies that have multi-layers out there and multiple levels of communication and pressure from both sides, that ultimately it's around who can succinctly deliver a message well, whether or not you like the message, who can succinctly deliver a message well, who can be vulnerable in that time and admit what they don't know. And I point to, I don't live in New York, but Governor Cuomo in New York is one of those governors who has been very outspoken, very vulnerable, doing press conferences, sharing what has happened, what they're going to do, maybe where they missed before, but where they're leading. Governor DeWine from Ohio being another one, maybe not a state a lot of people outside of the US know about, but he's also done a great job of leading the state you think about from how a line manager might lead their team. So that's that corporate structure that seems to be playing out in the US. What about from the UK side? How is that communication flow happening?
Yeah, so we don't have that at all. So the model you're describing is the model that I normally refer to as global, local, me. So global C-suite, local people managers, and then me, your regular employees. And you're absolutely right. We rely on that translation, and you do a town hall and your CEO will say, there's changes, we're going to hand over to your line manager will tell you everything, and then you do that translation global to local, local to me. Right now, we don't have that layer. We don't have governors. We have MPs, but their jurisdiction is very different. So it literally goes, the government announcement is there, and then you are, as a citizen, doing the translation piece. What does this mean for me? What does this mean for my family? What does this mean for my employees and my team and the way that I work? And it's chaotic and it's confusing, and people are seeking clarity where you're seeing policy that comes out from government, and you're trying to understand it and make the best of it. So everyone's a communicator nowadays. Everybody's trying to communicate and understand what's going on.
So we're dealing with a little bit of technical difficulties here. We're going to sort this out on the back end. This is why you go live. You never know what might happen.
Are you looking for the comments?
I am.
Yeah, I can't see it on here either.
Well, we're gonna keep trying to find them. So stick with us.
And you can tweet us. You could tweet me at All Things I See, or you could tweet at Chuck Ghost with your topic suggestion. So if the comments aren't working for you, then this is what we do as communicators, right? We adapt,
and you know what?
In
advanced technology, I'm getting notes from my producer.
Oh, I love it.
These comments are. So we will have some. So we will review those momentarily. But there's a topic that I hear a lot of communicators talking about, that I think we use words sometimes and we don't understand how others interpret those words. And one of my least favorite words is a word that a lot of communicators use, and it's authenticity. I don't like that word. You know what, Rachel? I'm going to use one of your words. That's a bugbear.
It is a bugbear.
It's bugbear. Because I think a lot of times when we say we want leaders to be authentic, I don't know that we necessarily want their authentic selves all the time. Authenticity is real. It can be brutal. It can be painful if somebody is truly authentic. I think sometimes what we want out of leaders is more honesty and compassion and empathy. And so one of my goals coming out of this pandemic, whenever that ends, is, do we start to have different expectations of leaders? I think you would want all leaders to be honest. That should be a reasonable expectation, I would think. But even in honesty, there's different levels of honesty. You can, there's a great line, and there's a Fast Company article I read from a year or two ago that was, honesty without compassion is cruelty.
That's
so people can be honest, but they can also be compassionate in their honesty. And I think that's what employees have always wanted. They've wanted, if leaders didn't have an answer, say, I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
But even if you have the answer, there's better ways to give it than just that straight line, like authentic answer. Care for your people.
Is it about more humanity? Would that sit better with you? Is it about, I think, so particularly recently, I've blogged about, being virtually visible and the importance of our leaders checking in, not checking up on their people, because there's a real difference there. And the importance of empathy, particularly at this point in time, and understanding the different situations that our employees are in. And for me, that is about being authentic. But when I think about being authentic, it's about being what makes you human. It's saying, I don't have the answers to everything as a leader. It's being transparent, being open. That's how I determine authenticity. I think it's about being real, because you connect with people that are honest and open. And I expect that of leaders that I work with. And it's hard when you're communicating change, for example. People often go into this mindset of how I should be, and I should focus on being strong rather than being real. And what do people respond to? They respond to realness and humanity and authenticity. I'm going to say it, Chuck. It is authenticity. And we rarely fall out over words, but I think the ethos and the meaning, I think we're both aligned on that, but it's just maybe the nuance of the word that sets your teeth on edge. My one is land. I don't like how did it land. That's one of my many kryptonites. Rainbow word art is another one. That's also, don't get me near a poster with stretched rainbow word art. I'm off. But how did it land is one of my bugbears.
I think I'm going to redo now the spin the wheel graphics to like a nice word art message across on a future one.
No. No,
But
you'll be
I
here
do
on your own every Wednesday now, Chuck. And there will just be a holding statement behind me.
I do wonder though if employees will now expect different things from leaders because of we don't know. Here's the very lame example I like to give that
Set it up well there,
there's
Chuck.
there's this other phrase people use called the new normal, and I don't like that either because I think that's kind of weird. But I think there are some people that expect life to go back to how it was before. That's not likely going to be the case for a lot of us. So how do we begin setting those expectations? And I compare it to the movie Back to the Future. And I know that people that study time travel and all that say that's not really how time travel works, but I'm going to go follow me on this. The future that we would have had pre-pandemic is not the future we're going to have. So we can't go back to what it is. So it's really just a matter of us figuring out what's next. And we're seeing organizations already declare like people aren't going back to work until 2021, meaning I should say back to work, back into the office. Because I think that's another distinction we need to make. People aren't going back into the office until 2021. Some organizations are saying nobody has to go back into the office after this.
Was it Twitter today, I think,
Twitter,
said
yep.
For the foreseeable future, there is no office working at all. We will all be remote. See, for organizations like that, you can. If you're a retail organization or a factory, you can't do that forever. I think for some organizations, certainly there's opportunities to shift and change the way that they work and how many people are coming in, certainly. But for other organizations, they need to find that new normal. Or I hear you on the semantics. I think I've been really pushing against changing the return to work. When we return to work, no. Everyone is working. They're just, when they maybe return to the place that they regularly work, where they hang the jacket on the back of the chair, perhaps. There's it's an importance, I think, around language because everyone's quite sensitive at the moment. And it's whatever is right for your culture, whatever will be right for your organization, for the way that you communicate and the way that you work, is finding the right language. I've stopped saying pre-COVID, post-COVID, and started to shift to talking about living with coronavirus, because until we have a solution, a vaccine, then how else do you talk about it? You can't say, because I think if you set expectations around timelines, they're probably not going to get hit because we don't know what's going on. So finding the right phrase that continues the cadence, the rhythm of your internal comms, particularly around how do you talk about the way that we now work? I was emailing somebody earlier and they're asking me a question. Michael, I know who's going to be dialing in, so hi Michael if you're watching, and he was asking me about how do we communicate and share employee stories, and my advice to him was communicate stories about this is the way we work around here, which is the definition of culture that I use, but don't call it culture stories. Don't do here I am sitting in my home office and kind of make it a thing about culture, but just seep it in terms of this is now the way that we work. So it's just finding the right narrative, finding the right way to communicate.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, you bring up a good point around, it's a very privileged thing to still be working during this time because there are a lot of people who were either furloughed or their job was eliminated. And I know that's another comms challenge coming up with organizations, is because some of these furloughs, some of these redundancies that were made are going to be permanent. Some hopefully are not. So that's going to be another challenge. And I think about you and I, one area I know you and I agree on is the value of planning for communications.
Yep, absolutely.
But think about all the plans that were put into place for 2020 that are scrapped. Now, that's not a condemnation of planning at all.
We've been waiting for this year. This year has been 2020 vision. Since about 2015, we've all had the stake in the line in the sand saying, Vision 2020, it's going to be like this, and we're going to work like this. And then all of a sudden, if you said on New Year's Eve, this is what your year is going to look like, you just couldn't imagine it. You just couldn't believe it. And this year is a big year for many organizations. It's kind of the pinnacle of all of our strategy, all of our planning. Here we are, Vision 2020, setting out the next 5 years. And you've got a bit of a false start there, because actually it's not the celebrating the end and achieving everything that we hope to achieve or readjusting, because my goodness, there's something much larger going on right now.
There is, and it'll again, I go back to this expectations of there's going to be a lot of people who the work life is not going to be the same. We're seeing images of what future offices, those that do go back to an office, what those offices will look like. If you're in retail, if you're in manufacturing, what those places will look like is not the same place you left. So it's going to be the ultimate change management exercise for every organization out there.
Even mine. So I opened the All Things IC Hub at the start of the year. I opened it after 5 years of dreaming about it. And now it's a space where I train 10 people at a time. And I could probably, I don't know how it's going to work. I'll probably have to remove some chairs and do 5 people at a time. Or you can sit, I was reading government guidance yesterday saying you can't sit side to side with somebody. You can sit back to back, or you can sit in rows, like classroom style. You can sit in rows. You know, even that for a business, even like mine, it's how do you make a space make sense where you keep people safe and you follow the right guidelines? You know, scale that up into global organizations with multiple different advice and guidance from their relevant governments. This is not going away. This is a huge problem that we need to get our heads around. And my advice in that situation is we need to work with our allies. We need to work with facilities. We need to work with IT. We need to work with HR to really help our employees understand what does it mean to go back to our place of work. If we're inviting them to go back, you know, what will it look like? What will it proper, you know, change management? What will it look like? And that planning is critical. Painting that picture of this is how we expect things to be, or this is almost drawing a line under saying goodbye to the old ways as well. It will not be business as usual, as you know it. That old way has gone, and that's quite a shock. That's quite a shock, but it's about keeping our people safe. So, but this is the joy of working in the field that we work in, because the mindset always for us has to be to listen to our employees, to make the right decision for our business, to work with our stakeholders, and just to help guide everybody through it. Communication has never been more important.
Yeah, and we'll get to the suggestions here in a little bit. The one thing I want to close on is I'll see if I can find it and share it. There's this great research done around stigmatized workers. So these are people that previously might have been janitors, cashiers, hotel housekeepers, people like that we put almost in a lower professional class that now we appreciate the future value they're going to bring to us as individuals, as consumers, as employees, making us healthier and safer. Those are going to be the people that we have to re-engage with. We can't say what's too difficult to reach them. Let's just focus on the easy people. Those are going to be the important audiences that we focus on 2020 and beyond.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've always known the importance of reaching our remote workers. I think, but now particularly it's often our remote workers on the front line who are out there putting themselves at risk, and how we communicate with them has never been more important. You're absolutely right. So I'm wondering about what we add to our wheel, because we can't see.
No. Yeah, absolutely.
What do you reckon, Chuck?
I think comments are starting to come up here a little bit. Let me see here.
If not, I know you'll just fill it with Duran Duran. So please save me from a wheel of Duran Duran.
We could do that very easily, Rachel. Thank you very much.
We're not going to do
that. Let's see. Do we want to add? So here's one. Communicating. Oh, here's a good one. As a communicator, when do we not say anything?
Ooh.
Is there a time for us to zip it?
Nice.
Time to time. So I'm going to go to my wheel here, and keep putting it in here, because if you suggested this one, and with all the future ones we do gets picked, we'll send you a little prize pack. So I'm going to add not say anything, and I will apologize for everyone early on. My penmanship is not good. How about, do we redefine comms moving forward?
Ooh.
Or how is comms redefined? So let's add that one. We've kind of talked a little bit about it, but I think as you guys have seen, we had no notes leading up to this conversation, and we still spent 20 minutes jabbering away. We got so many more coming in.
Great. Thank you.
How do we do this one? How to reach low-tech remote workers?
Yeah.
What
nice.
the very people we were just talking about.
Yeah, nice. I've got a blog post on that Naomi Jones wrote for me recently from Suez, who are our recycling and waste management contractors in the UK, and she wrote a blog post to me on how to communicate with remote workers during a pandemic, which is that exact topic. It's really critical, and it was on a low budget as well. It wasn't about spending millions of pounds to communicating with people. That's a great topic.
How do you feel about a good conversation about mental wellness for employees, and how as communicators we have a role to play in that?
Always up for conversations on mental health. It's actually, I think it's next week now. I've lost track of the date, but Mental Health Foundation are running their Mental Health Awareness Week, which is at the end of May. And the theme this year is kindness. So there's always a good excuse to talk about mental health and well-being, and that Mental Health Foundation Week is coming up if people aren't aware of that already. It's a good, really good one.
Let's get a little tactical on how about, this is a good one, advice on how to call out broken processes that have been exposed during COVID-19. So speaking up.
Ooh, nice.
Broken processes. Oh, the other one, I remember the other thing you and I disagree on is survey fatigue. So we'll see if that's a thing or not in here. Let's see, those are some good ones. I'm sorry, my eyes aren't on camera.
So the plan is we'll choose a topic each week. So we'll be here every Wednesday, 8 p.m. my time, 3 p.m. Chuck's time. And we will choose a topic to discuss, and we invite you to pitch in with your comments and feedback as we talk through the topic as well.
I just added one, somebody here, the topic about the global challenges with different rules in different places and different times and different leadership. So that's a good one. Want us to focus on.
So how to be a global communicator. Yep.
Yep. Balance the reality of difficult business, but still be authentic. Whatever that means, Rachel. Maybe you'll have to define what authentic means for us. But communicating in difficult times.
Yeah, or we can ask Adam Driver. He's just set up a new consultancy called Authentic Comms. So it's all, his whole focus is on how to be authentic. We can ask him for
communicate in different times and a wild cards. We got one more spot here. Let's see. How do you feel about one about buzzwords to ditch?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Love it. Yeah, that's a great one.
So there's a lot of them now with COVID-19.
Yes.
So again, wheel is sloppy. Trust me, I can read it.
You've got to get Chris to rewrite those, Chuck.
I can. I told
you yesterday you should be a doctor. That is awful.
Sorry about that. So we did have another camera set up, but technical difficulties. We're gonna I'm gonna hold this guy and try to spin him so you guys can all see. So it's legit. We give it a good couple. We got it. Was it The Price is Right? It's got to go around once, I think. So we'll get it going, get around, and comms redefined.
Nice.
So we'll think about how does communications move forward. So whoever submitted that one, we'll go back and look at the comments. We'll track you down, give you that. But that will be the topic for next week. That is what it says. It says comms redefined on there. That's one of the more legible ones, maybe.
I didn't mean to be mean to you, Chuck. You tried your hardest. You were under pressure. You did a good job. We can read it. Comms redefined. So that is the topic of choice for next Wednesday. Yep. Same time, same place.
Yep, absolutely.
Nice.
And we'll hope to see everybody back here again. If you want to get this on your calendar, you can just block out the time. I'll put a comment in this video, the thread where you can RSVP, you can get added to the calendar to stay up to date on things. Again, want to thank everybody for coming out to this. It's exciting, it's new. Thinking back to a couple years ago at Future Comms, Social Core's Future Comms event, I did Jeopardy with Susan Drock, who's a CIO. She'd always wanted to be on Jeopardy. So rather than do like a normal fireside chat, I put her on Jeopardy. So I do think this is a chance to show how we can also have some fun in comms during a serious time, but we need your input. So join us back here, like Rachel said, 8 p.m. British time, 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific, whatever that relates to time in your world. And look forward to seeing everybody back here. And again, thank you so much for the participation.
Thank you so much. See you same time, same place next week. Thanks for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.